Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Oh, now, here's Jim Coyle.
Happy Thursday, everybody. It's another beautiful day out there. Chamber of Commerce weather day. Lots going on, lots to talk about, lots on the schedule. Coach Griff will join us, Dustin Schutte along the way, K-Bro on the schedule, and Matt Taylor from the Colts will join us as well. So plenty to talk about. The spring game tonight for Indiana as their spring camp comes to a close. The Reds are rolling. Can't wait to talk about that with K-Bro because the Mets stink. Did they lose again? They've lost like 87 in a row, I think. I think it's 13. But where are his Mets? 8-16. Oh, last 9 they won a game. So they won last night. They broke the streak. Oh, he'll be happy. K-Bro will be happy. What did I have them? I forget. They had lost 12 straight. Yeah, so they broke that streak. Juan Soto came back. That must have been a big help. Ellie De La Cruz has been just rolling for the Reds. But the whole National League Central Division is fun, and I know that the majority of fans around here are you either a Cardinals fan, a Cubs fan, a Reds fan in the National League. Then, of course, you've got the White Sox fans. But that don't confront me. We're talking about the National League and that National League Central. It's tight. I know it's early still. But let's see. The Reds, they lost last night, but they're a half game off of having the best record in baseball. But the rest of the Central Division, the Cubs are a half game back. The Cards are a game and a half back. Pittsburgh also a game and a half back. Last place, Milwaukee, is only 2 games back. So, and the Cincinnati Reds, I love it. -2 run differential on the season means they've scored less runs than their opponents. 2, and they're still in first place. Crazy. Fun to see that stuff. And then how about this? Atlanta pitcher Spencer Strider, he's been on assignment down at Gwinnett for the Gwinnett. I think it's the Stripers, but could be the Strippers. I'm just kidding. So he throws a nice game, 4 to the third innings, 8 strikeouts, 1 hit, gives up a hit. His relievers behind him don't give up any hits. They're playing the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. I love that. I love the minor league baseball names. But Braxton Garrett is the pitcher, or was the pitcher for the Jumbo Shrimp. But he throws a no-no. He throws a no-hitter. He goes the distance and throws a no-hitter and loses to a 2-0 game because he did hit 2 batters, throw a wild pitch, and give up a sac fly in the fourth or fifth inning. So wasn't a perfect game, but man, that's rare to throw a no-hitter and lose. I mentioned the Reds. They're tied with Atlanta and LA as far as having the best records in baseball. So some fun stuff there. See how long that lasts. But as long as the Reds stay healthy, man, they've got good pitching. That makes a difference. It's huge. Tonight, Indiana has its spring game at 8 p.m. Will air on the Big Ten Network from Memorial Stadium, Merchant Bank Field. Also, the NFL Draft tonight at 8. We'll talk to Matt Taylor about that, and we'll talk to K-Bro about it as well. Coach, we'll talk to everybody about it. Indiana should see 2 players taken tonight in this first round. So, Omar Cooper being the second one, of course, but we'll see how that goes. He's actually, he's getting bumped up as far as when his projection of being taken. One of the ones I looked at last night was 13th to the Rams. So that is, he just kind of keeps getting moved up a bit. Which is good. That means it's being batted around. Somebody like, I think I'd like to have him. That means there's more than one team that are vying for his services, which is a good thing. And then the remainder of Indiana, the Indiana players that will be drafted will come after that. The only one that's projected to possibly go in the second round would be D'Angelo Pons. And then there will be several that come in the middle rounds, probably, maybe even later. And then there's going to be several that sign as undrafted free agents. It's going to be an unbelievable number of guys that are signed to the NFL from this program. Off of this season alone, it will dwarf the amount of current Indiana players in the NFL. And we'll see who else goes. Guys from the state. So cover everything. Looking forward to that. And it's a big weekend in Bloomington, of course, with Little Five going on. I will not be participating in those activities, though. It's a good time for me to get out of town, to be honest with you. But looking forward to all that is going on. A little rain tomorrow, possibly, but it's going to be nice on Saturday. But it's going to be great tonight. Tailgaters out and about for the national champion Indiana football team as they are back in action for the first time since they won their national championship down in Miami back in January. So, and it's the first time for Hoosier fans to get to see not only this team together, but Josh Hoover as the new starting quarterback. You've got some other guys, Turbo Richard, Nick Marsh, Gold Shoes. You know, we had White Shoes Johnson. What if we have Gold Shoes Marsh? That doesn't have the same ring, but we can make it happen. But no, I shouldn't give him grief because I'd say he got all the grief he wanted or needed from Coach Kurt Signetti. And I put out a tweet yesterday that because they're still killing it on the recruiting side. As a matter of fact, one of the big news pieces for Indiana football is the highest 2027 ranked player is either on a visit or coming to a visit. The Hoosier.com was the first to break that. Jalen Brewster, yeah. He's another highly ranked recruit. He is the highest ranked recruit in the state for next season. And of course, Monson Sales, the highest for this season, I believe. Indiana hosts its spring game tonight, which coincides with this massive college weekend. So this is the time to bring in recruits, man. And Indiana is using this one to bring in Jalen Brewster, who has been committed to Texas Tech since October. But the recruitment has been fluid with multiple visits outside of Lubbock after the last few months. Again, once you're committed to somebody while you're going on a visit, that does not tell me you're committed to anybody. And in this case, Indiana fans are grateful for that. But as it goes around, it's aggravating. We'll talk more about that. Coach Griff will join us next. We'll talk about that and plenty more. Glad to have you along on this Thursday game day, I guess you could say. Back with more right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Bored, Bloomington? Dave & Buster's can fix that. Eat and drink your way through our all-new menu. Play half-price games every Sunday through Thursday. Watch all your team's wins on a 40-foot screen and 30 HD TVs. And level all up with the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game. Private game suites, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's on 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. On this Thursday, it's a game day. Jim Coyle with you as always, and joined now by Coach Griff, Shannon Griffith. How are you doing, sir?
Doing very well, my friend. How are you doing?
If I was any better, I'd be you. It's a beautiful day out there, and looking forward to trying to enjoy some of it. But looking forward to tonight's spring game, although it's not really a game. I don't know why we even call it a game. It's not even I guess it's a glorified scrimmage, really, is what they are. But I'm interested to see the crowd. I'm interested to see how they pick up, how they jump on this, and how those things go. But more importantly, as I was talking about just before you joined us, but I think you could hear, I was talking about Jalen Brewster. This is one of the biggest recruiting weekends for Indiana because they're bringing in the guys. You know, this is the world's greatest college weekend is how it's always been billed, with Little 500 going on. And man, that's a lot of stuff to get to show off. And I was thinking of Jalen Brewster, and we always hear about how beautiful Indiana's campus is, because it is. Well, I can tell you one thing. I have never been to Texas Tech, but I know where it's located, and I can't imagine it looks that good out there in West Texas.
Probably not. Probably a little barren there as opposed to Bloomington, where you have some hills.
But they got the money, Coach.
They do have the money. The one thing the Brewster kid brings to the table is Brian Haynes and his dad, Jalen's dad, played together at Ball State.
Yep.
So there is a pretty strong connection in that regard. And so I do think they have a great chance of landing the young man in this recruiting class. Of course, it's not going to be easy. And it's going to be kind of the true recruiting battles where you're going to fight off other big-time programs, even if he did decide to make a commitment to Indiana, because it's never done till it's done. And but it's going to be a big weekend. There's no question about that. I'm interested to see how the students' participation at tonight's spring game is, with the aspect of the game and, of course, the NFL draft and Fernando and all the things that are considered, big time events. It should be a fun-filled weekend. Looks like it's going to be good weather. And it's, one of those weekends that everybody marks on their calendars, with the Little Five being the big part of that on Saturday.
Yes, if you're an adult, that means it's time to get out of town if you're in Bloomington. Right. And if you're not, if you're a student, it is time to let her rip. And you should. That's what it's for, baby. Just stay, keep her in between the white lines is between the white lines is all you need to do. But yeah, be safe if you are participating in any of the events. But yeah, it is a gigantic weekend. Always has been, always will be. But a great recruiting weekend. But it's something that Indiana can really take advantage of now. They really couldn't take advantage of before. I mean, yeah, it's cool to show it off, but now they're doing it with big time players. And, Brewster, and then if they're able to land Monch and Sales, and then that may, Brewster's still a year. Well, they're in the same class, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're 27, both of them.
Now you want to talk about the monster haul for Indiana?
Yeah. Right.
Because 5-star on each side of the ball, they've never had a 5-star. That would be gigantic. And I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think, last year at the spring game, there was definitely more people at the spring game because of Indiana's finish a year ago, and the fact that Fernando had arrived on campus. It'll be interesting to see now, with the national championship under the belt, how the crowd turns out tonight. Those are important for guys that are visiting, especially 5-stars who go to these spring games, and they're accustomed to seeing maybe 30, 40,000 in the seats when they go to a Texas or an Alabama spring game. But I think tonight, with that opportunity to land some big time recruits, we talked about this before. Once you put yourself on the map, brand identity becomes aware. You win a big time game, the national championship and the Big Ten championship, you're going to get the eyes towards you from some of the better players. And it's what Indiana's been able to do. And with the more of those kids that visit, the opportunity that Indiana's going to get one or two of them goes way up, because it's about the volume of guys coming in to visit that ultimately decides what you get or don't get.
Absolutely. But also certain positions, quarterback, we'll start with that. Kurt Signetti, known to just be very successful with quarterbacks. That was prior to having one win the Heisman. He would always have quarterbacks win be the best in the conference. And now you've got a Heisman Trophy winner to that. You've got a presumptive number 1 pick to add to that. So that is just going to grow that. It already has. That's why Josh Hoover returned to Indiana. And now he can add to that because he is a serious NFL type prospect. So if that happens, that will be 3 straight years of putting a quarterback into the NFL, 2 of which definitely did not have a path to the NFL prior to meeting Kurt Signetti.
Yeah, no question. And the productivity that they've shown in the offense that Mike Shanahan and Kurt Signetti have designed to fit quarterback's strengths. And we've seen that for the last couple seasons. And the fact that, Coach Signetti has had like you reflected on his tenure as a quarterback coach throughout his years as a coach, Phillip Rivers, he talks about him quite frequently. He had him at NC State and others that he's had along the way. And James Madison, where he had those guys that, I think 3 straight years they were, conference MVPs or something to that effect. So there's no question that is going to be attractive, especially to quarterbacks. And then the fact that you're going to have a wide receiver, Omar, or maybe Elijah as a part of the draft class as well. These are all signs that everything's moving in the direction of what you need to be able to attract top talent to your campus. And now I'd like for them to get some O-linemen since our O-line is pretty depleted. That's going to be an interesting dynamic tonight because that seems to be where the biggest drawdown has been in spring, has been on the offensive line, not from necessary spring injury, but guys that were still banged up after a 16 game season this past year. But that'll be an interesting dynamic tonight, like you said, with the spring game or the spring scrimmage, and the fact that this will be the first time they've tackled all spring as well, which will be interesting, which always blows my mind because usually they come out and don't miss tackles and you think, gosh, these guys haven't tackled all spring and they come out here and do what they do. It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the environment. I'm wondering how they're going to, I'm just guessing, integrate the NFL draft, especially since there's a high potential of having 2 players taken tonight. Now, I don't know the length of time. One of the projections I saw for Omar was 13th, which is 4 or 5 spots higher than I had seen prior. And what do they go, like 15 minutes between picks?
Usually they're for the first, 10, 12, 10, 15 picks because they're pretty well set in stone who they're taking unless something changes at the last minute.
I mean, how long does that take?
Well, I'd say you're probably looking hour for that first 20. That'd be my guess.
Okay, well, then there's the great possibility then 2 players will go in that hour. So they'll have to
and I may be a way off on that, but
I wonder how they're going to keep track. Once Mendoza goes off the board, which obviously we expect him to go off the board first, but how are they going to keep track to not miss? I guess you've got it on record, and so as soon as it happens, you play it back immediately and play that on the big screen. But to keep all the love in there, but that's going to be. Is that a first? Has Indiana ever had 2 players taken in the first round? Have they ever had a player taken in the first round?
Boy, that'd be a great trivia question.
Well, Antoine Randall, when did he go? I wonder.
I can't remember. I don't think he was a first rounder, though.
He may have been a second rounder. I can't remember.
Because he was projected as a wide receiver coming out. So I'm not quite sure. He was
back. But 2 players potentially going off the board tonight in the first round for the Hoosiers. And they've got spring ball going on. And they've got these big recruiting visits happening. So it's a lot going on. But getting back to Jalen Brewster, this would be huge for Kurt Signetti. I mean, for Brian Haynes and his defense, which has also been one of the tops in the country. And I don't know, other than money being a separator, what Jalen Brewster would see in Texas Tech over Indiana. Indiana is projected to be a better team. There's just a lot of good stuff there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that flip.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know some of the other things. I think Texas Tech's probably closer for him. You don't know if he's a kind of a homebody-ish type of guy, likes having home be within earshot of where he's going to school. We don't know those things. That sometimes plays a factor in all this. But I do think the fact that there's a relationship there goes a long way because, a dad that played with the guy that's the DC knows that his son's going to be well taken care of under his tutelage at Indiana. And the fact that Jalen is a phenomenal defensive lineman and a guy that probably could come in and be an instant contributor just because of how big he is, strong he is, and what he brings to the table as a D lineman and athletically. So there are a lot of positives in Indiana's favor when you talk about that aspect of things. Now, they're not going to throw a bunch of money at him just for the sake of trying to get in a bidding war because that's not Coach Cignetti. He kind of lays it out. This is what you're going to get, and this is why we're the better choice. And he's pretty persuasive when he gets kids on campus, being able to convince them that Indiana is the right choice for them. And I think everything that Indiana's done over 2 years speaks volumes to young men and families, moms and dads as well, that the opportunities at Indiana are going to give your son a chance to excel both on and off the field, and that Coach Cignetti runs a tight ship when it comes to expectations. And, I love his saying, it's always earned, never given. And that's the thing that I like, from that, because he walks the walk with that quote in terms of what goes on in his programs. It's earned. It's never going to be given.
I put a post out yesterday just because I'm goofy, but it was one of the stories that Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com had out, but it was about this constant success that they're churning. But it's one of my favorite sports quotes of all time. And the older folks, our older listeners, or our sage listeners, I should say, will probably be familiar with this quote from the great Bum Phillips, former coach of the Houston Oilers. He once said, he can take his'n and beat urine, or take urine and beat his'n. And that reminds me of Kurt Cignetti. That's what he did. He took the whatever he had, won. He said, all right, we'll take some of those guys from over there. We're going to win. Now how scary is it going to be when Indiana starts getting top level talent? And this is not in any way a knock on the guys they have, the guys that have played. They played out of their minds great. They've done everything. They overachieved. They reached heights because beyond their talents, because of the mental aspect. That has been one of the most astounding things to watch during this entire process, Coach. And it's been mentioned hundreds of times, but the lack of making mistakes, and the fact that Kurt Cignetti does things so efficiently within the frame of practice. He does not going over, wasting a bunch of time. And man, when I was in high school, no, there were no easy practices. Right. There were no short practices. There were no practices without running. It didn't happen. Now, there were easier Saturday practices dependent upon what happened Friday nights.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Kurt Cignetti is a master at what he's doing. But where did he become such a master? Because he's doing some things that even Nick Saban didn't do. I mean, refined everything. Let's hold off on that. We'll pick up on the other side. When we pick up this hitchhiker coming along, you know him, you love him, you can't live without him. Dustin Schutte joins us next, right after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC, local lives here.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games every Sunday through Thursday, a new menu to dig into, and next-level upgrades like private game suites, the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington, 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle on this Thursday. Happy to be here with you as always, and even happier to have Coach Griff with us and the man, Dustin Schutte. I think I'm going to retire the little train whistle until I get a better one. I'm going to retire that one. And that's a kid's toy whistle, man. I'm going to make sure we get you a good one in here. Oh, the real one, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Jim. What's the song, or who's the artist that sings the song? Is it Train? Is it just Train?
Yeah,
that was a black
word of the song that I know.
Blackfoot.
Blackfoot. I think that's correct. Yep.
I always want to say it's Black Sabbath, and I'm like
no.
I know that's not correct.
That's Blackfoot because the lead singer.
Ozzy.
Lead singer was also in. Oh shoot, not Alabama, but
Alabama.
I'm blanking already. Mine's not quite with me yet. I'll think about it and get back to you on that.
It is fitting that you mentioned Alabama because there's been some Twitter beef between the two parties these last couple days. The Indiana-Alabama Twitter feud, almost as intense, maybe even more intense than the Purdue Tennessee Twitter beef.
Well, let's get into both of those. I thought the first one was kind of funny. I think Indiana as a whole is, from the coaches and, from within the program, they know, hey, we've worked our ass off. We're better than you last year. We kicked your butt, period. And that goes for any and everybody. So start treating us, put some respect on our name. That is the feeling, and I get it. Because first of all, these guys were already with Kurt Cignetti coaching-wise. And Kurt Cignetti, he was like that before he got to Indiana. It's, hey, put some respect on what we're doing here.
Right.
I love that. And that just carried over. And Brian Haynes, I love him. you know, if you missed it, Ty Simpson, the former quarterback for Alabama, expected to go around late, maybe in the first round of tonight's draft. We'll see. But he was on a podcast, and who was the other guy that said when we played him?
Caleb Downs. It was Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs from Ohio State's podcast.
And but he just said we knew everything they were going to do. They didn't do anything special. We just couldn't run. We just couldn't. But I get what Bryant was upset about, because there's a reason you couldn't run the ball. There was a reason you couldn't throw the ball, because Indiana was in your face or breaking your quarterback's ribs and just disrupting and destroying everything you thought about doing. I think the fact that they gave Indiana zero credit, zero respect for that, just said, okay, well, I got a little something for you. Bam.
Well,
yeah. He said,
go ahead.
I was going to say was, I think Ty Simpson, the way he said it came across as being a slight, because he was comparing Indiana's defense in complexity to what he saw in the SEC. And ultimately what he was trying to say was, as simplistic as Indiana is on defense, they are really good because they don't make mistakes, which is a true statement. They don't make mistakes. I mean, that's the thing that Indiana's gone by.
Yep. That's what we just talked about.
Right. And at the end of the day, I think what Bryant, like you said, what Bryant was trying to say was the reason why is because you couldn't do A, B, and C. And then
he also said because they run these basic defenses. That's not true either.
No.
They're disguised.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it was said in the midst of two former teammates talking about Indiana, which Caleb Downs kind of said the same thing or agreed with what Ty Simpson had said. And, you know,
and it is simply what I think, what I just said. It's, hey, okay, we're done. We're done with it. You want to chirp? Yeah. Look, the person who said something about the $40 million roster.
Yeah.
Signetti said, yeah, correct. Not even close.
Yeah. And he clarified that yesterday.
What's that?
He clarified that yesterday with the On3 interview. He said it was more closer to 15 million, somewhere in between. But again, it wasn't 40.
Amazing. And speaking of, you can read that at thehoosier.com. I think you can still get your last chance for 50% off. It's only like $5 a month, but the stories are going to break are coming from On3, thehoosier.com, and that will continue. Dustin Schutte, Boilers on SI. What is the beef the Boilers have going?
Oh, it's not current. There's just been a long-standing sort of.
We like beefs.
There's been a long-standing Twitter beef between Purdue and Tennessee, and it kind of started in 2019 when Carson Edwards made that three-pointer, or missed the three-pointer, but was fouled in the Sweet 16 game. Went to the free throw line, sent the game to overtime, and Purdue won. And since then, Purdue's beaten Tennessee. They beat them obviously in 2024 in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four. They've beaten them, I think, twice in volleyball. They beat them in the Music City Bowl on that quote unquote questionable play call that they can't let go. So there's just been a lot of fun back and forth.
You mean
and
fans really can't let plays go?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Hard to believe, right?
That would be shocking.
So there's just always anytime Tennessee, chimes in, they seem to mention that, they were cheated out of the Music City Bowl, which now it's the Music City Bowl. Have you not moved on? You've been in the college football playoff. That's number one. And then, just talking about the situation, as many people did, thinking that Edey fouled on every play, all that stuff. So it's kind of a fun dispute, but they've got now they've got a home and home series on the basketball court scheduled for this year at 26-27 in Mackey, 27-28 in Knoxville. I can't remember what their arena is. Bowling Center, maybe something like that.
Yeah. Tennessee, Thompson Bowling. Yeah. Thompson Bowling Arena.
That's what it is. Yes. So
and he just picked up Jalen Harrelson.
Yeah, they did. They did. So that there's another little
surprised that he got out of the state with Purdue probably does not have a spot. They don't Matt Painter does not go in. He's got his roster filled, or planned. So there's usually not openings that are unexpected. But
not only that, when he's added players, they've all been graduate transfers, at least as far as I can remember. So he does have
potential.
He does have a method to his madness there, and I think it also helps in terms of like their high school recruiting. So kind of having a finite number on who's gonna stick around, who's gonna be there in the coming years. Not to say he wouldn't take an undergrad transfer, but that was, they had a pretty full roster. They've been looking at some grad transfer players. They brought in a grad transfer player. So, I was surprised that Indiana was. I don't know if Indiana was even a finalist for Jalen Harrelson. Of course, it doesn't matter. They loaded up on talent in the portal anyway.
They picked up Marcus Burton at point guard, and but they've also got they got Jaden Mustaf. So I don't know if I still think he would be a good pickup, but I think that maybe he doesn't fit financially with what they have done. So, how did spring go for the Purdue program? I know that they've been trying to get some guys in through the portal and just get out of this quicksand that they've been in for the last 3 years. It seemed like they have been in quicksand, just turning circles, looking for dry land to get to. What's it been like for the Boilers?
Yeah, I can tell you that they are. So after spring practice last year, and I know that there's probably a little bit of him not knowing what your roster is going to look like. But the difference this year, from this year to last year to this year, in Barry Odom's just his overall confidence, he looked, I don't know if happier is the correct word, maybe more confident, but he looked more pleased than he did last year. It was kind of like him scratching his head last year, like, I don't know how many wins we're going to get. And knowing that you still have to go into the transfer portal and try to assemble a team. Number one, he's thrilled that he doesn't have to do that again this year, because they've added 53, I think is the total number, 53 new faces via transfer portal and through the recruiting class. He feels confident in the amount of talent that they have. I do think that they have some guys that can be difference makers. They've made some alterations to the coaching staff, and by no means does that mean that this is going to be a 10 or 11 win team in the Big Ten. But it's a step in the right direction. If you can get up to, and I think most people in West Lafayette understand that this is probably going to be a gradual process. If you can get up to somewhere between 5 and 6 wins, and show that you're more competitive in some of those, against some of those more major opponents, I think that that's going to be a positive step in the right direction. And so, we'll see what happens. I do think that they've taken a significant leap in terms of their talent that they have on the roster. That what that means, I don't know, because their talent was not has not been great last year. But you think back to some of those years under Ryan Walters. I mean, they had Tyrone Tracy, they had Dylan Thieneman, who played at Oregon. They had now I lost his name. Guy who led them in sack. I can't remember his name.
Look on the ground, see if you see his name.
See if I can pick it up. Yeah. Pick it up. But the point is they've had some guys, Deion Burks, who went to Oklahoma, who played on a playoff team. So they've had some, Nick Scorton is who I was thinking of. Texas A&M was the Big Ten sacks leader. So they've had some guys in the past. They just weren't able to put anything together. They're trying to get back to that level where they have some NFL caliber guys. I think there might be a few on this roster, but it's just going to be assembling that, getting that group to gel together. And I do think the fact that nobody has to deal with the portal in the spring is going to help Purdue tremendously. But again, if you can get 5-6 wins out of this season, I think you are really happy about that. And it shows that they've got the program headed in the right direction.
No doubt. So, and there's only no offense intended. There's only one way for them to go, but up. But man, I can't imagine how difficult it has to be there with your book ended now by two, or not you, but Purdue is bookended now by two of the elite programs in the country. And there's how many elite programs what would he call elite right now? 20? You got a group of five that kind of filter in and out of the top 25, but you go through the stalwarts of the Big Ten, the stalwarts of the SEC, some of the stalwarts from the Big 12, but you've got Notre Dame and you've got Indiana, but Purdue doesn't really recruit against Notre Dame. Indiana never really recruited against Notre Dame. They're just now getting to that point, but of course they're recruiting against everybody now. So, and the state, Purdue owned the state in recruiting. They had made that flip. They were pulling in the football recruits because IU sucked. I mean, let's be honest. And it wasn't that long ago. But of course, Curt Cignetti has quickly flipped that coach. And that's huge because we've just, before you joined us, we're talking about Jalen Brewster, the top recruit in all of 2027, who has been committed to Texas Tech. But now Indiana is quickly rising. He talked about the visit that they've got. Well, they've got him in for a visit this weekend. And I think you have probably been to a little five in your life, haven't you?
I've been down there once, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure. So that's what a recruiting weekend for them. But, they're looking at landing Monson Sales. That would be, Indiana's never had a 5-star recruit. Never.
Right.
That would be their, well, one of these guys could be their first because they're both in the same class. But landing a top-ranked 5-star on both sides of the ball, man, I talked about Monson Sales mostly because that's the one that had been the most likely for it to be. But once they break that ceiling, that is, or kind of poke a hole in the dam, will start allowing more things in. And the same thing has to happen when you're at the bottom working up. But boy, does it seem it is a lot harder, and it seems like it takes a lot longer to accomplish.
Yeah. But one of the things I thought was interesting is Barry Odom was asked basically, like, is there extra pressure because Indiana won a national championship for you to get this thing rolling in the right direction? And his response was, what they've done is incredible, but I can't focus on what Indiana's done. Because if I'm focused on what they're doing, I can't, how am I going to lead Purdue? And so I thought that was an interesting response. But then the other thing is, when you talk about Indiana bringing in those 5-star recruits, this is what people thought would happen when you had the 12-team playoff. And it wasn't necessarily one of the worst teams in the history of college football go up and win a national championship. But the thought was that team could then compete in the Big Ten, could then, maybe get to the college football playoff. And what does that do for recruiting? And now you're starting to see what it can do for recruiting. The history and the tradition of those schools of Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, all of those, Alabama, it doesn't really matter to these kids anymore. They just want to go and they want to win. They want to have an opportunity to, win a national championship. They want to have an opportunity to get to the NFL. And now Indiana's proven, Curt Cignetti's proven that they can do that there. So this is why, people thought that when you include more teams, you're going to have a better, or more parity, more teams that could potentially, reach the mountaintop, and it would spread out the recruiting talent. I still think that there's probably going to be guys are always want to go to Alabama. Guys are always going to want to go to Ohio State. But now Indiana's certainly in that mix for some of the high 4-star and 5-star guys, and that was never the case before. So it's really opened it up, and they have a chance to not only build on what they've done, but build a foundation where they can be successful basically for as long as Curt Cignetti is there, and then beyond that, depending on who their next head coach is.
Yeah, Griff, this glass box is still being broken as far as the misnomer of brands. Again, brands. The brand bias is still there. Indiana is kind of quickly getting past that, but they're not. They're not past it. I mean, that goes right back to that Ty Simpson podcast thing a minute ago. That's what that was about. Because had that been Michigan or Ohio State, those comments are probably not coming. I really truly believe that. So it's still, even in the level of some of these players now, because when they were growing up, when they were in high school, Indiana sucked. When they were in college, when they were a freshman in college, sophomore in college, Indiana sucked. But now we're going into year 3 of Curt Cignetti, and that is going to help start eating away with that. And Purdue is trying to do the same thing. They've got to start eating away at that, the mindset of those kids as they come forward. But yeah, that's definitely going to be a tough challenge. And I'm not going to lie, you can tell Curt Cignetti enjoys just being able to put his foot on Purdue's throat just because it's a rival. And you got to love the fact that he embraced the rivalries the minute he got here. I mean, with that introduction that he, that we all know him for, but he just picked up on that and never let it down. But it was also entertaining the fact that he did throw in Ohio State and Michigan then, not waiting, coming off of a 3-9 team. Now, but we do see this all the time. If you look at Coach, what is the former JMU coach that's now at UCLA? What's it?
Chesney.
Bob Chesney. Go back and watch his introductory press conference. It was almost verbatim. And I'm like, okay, well, good luck with that. But
he's got a little sig. He's got a definitely a little sig in him, in that respect. But with Indiana or Purdue, I think the biggest thing that breaks the barrier per se is the consistency at which your program wins. So when Purdue had Tiller and they started winning 8-9 games consistently and beat Ohio State in some big games at Ross-Ade, all of a sudden Purdue was being spoken of as a contender in the Big Ten, pretty much.
I could have been a contender. I could have been a somebody.
When Tiller was doing what he did. Now, what happened to Tiller at Purdue, the faithful got tired of winning 8-9 games and not winning enough Big Ten championships. And he ultimately said, you know what? I've taken you as far as I'm going to get you. You're not going to get what you want every year, but that's what ultimately changed Purdue's approach outwardly, and he started landing some big time recruits. But before that, he won with what Cignetti won with, the undervalued recruit, the Drew Breeses of the world. Drew Brees was a 6-foot, 170-pound soaking wet quarterback from Texas. And the reason why I say that is I was at Ball State when they recruited him, and I was on campus over there talking to their offense of guys, and they showed pictures of Drew Brees when he came in. They take pictures as freshmen, and then they take him every year. And he was he was a scrawny looking dude. I mean, you would not have looked at him and said, that's a Big Ten quarterback that's going to
hit a break here. We'll pick this up on the other side. Coach Griff, Dustin, Schutte with us. More coming up. Keep it locked right here on 98.7 WWZ in the Zone, Bloomington's only sports station.
Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on the Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Bored, Bloomington? Dave and Buster's can fix that. Eat and drink your way through our all-new menu. Play half-price games every Sunday through Thursday. Watch all your team's wins on a 40-foot screen and 30 HD TVs. And level it up with the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game. Private game suites, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's on 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Meter Radio on this Thursday, game day for Indiana football, as their spring game is tonight at 8 p.m., along with the NFL draft, where former Indiana quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner Fernando Mendoza is expected to be taken number 1 for the first time for an Indiana Hoosier by the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, and Omar Cooper expected to be taken within this first round. So it would be kind of cool to see that 1-2 combination, like a pitcher-catcher going in that round. Dustin Schutte from Boilers on SI with me, along with Coach Griff from Hoosier Tailgate, which you can find at thehoosier.com, along with everything else that's going on in the portal and with the Indiana football. The portal has slowed down for everybody, Dustin. Indiana, even, they still have 3 spots to fill, but they were able to hit it hard, hit it very successfully. Now I quickly are sitting back and looking what they have, what they already had, what they have coming in, how it's going to mix, and what they need to add, what money they have left to spend.
When we get to this point of the transfer portal, I always wonder if there's a lot of regret from players who entered the portal, because obviously a lot of the high-name guys have already been taken or have been, picked up, or there's interest there, they've got their visits set, or, whatever the case might be. And now you get down to, I don't want to say the slums, because I feel like that's not right, but you get the guys who you feel like are just going to be filling roster spots at this point. That there might be a few guys that are still out there that could carve out roles on wherever they decide to land. But at the same time, obviously, they're not the high priority target gets. And I just kind of wonder, when you get to this point, are you a player and you're looking at your agent like, did we make a mistake? What, you don't always know the situation or what's going on, but I'm always curious about that, because there's a lot of guys that have already been taken, and sometimes it doesn't take very long to get those guys, but we'll see. There's still a few big name guys out there. But it'll be interesting. Indiana's got some roster spots. I'm sure Purdue, I think, could add one more if they wanted to. But it's in terms of at Purdue, it's going to be pretty slim. So, we'll see how it goes.
And I agree with you, because I'll take Nick Dorn for example, for Indiana. Last year, he was wanting more money than he got, I think. And then when this season rolled around, I can only speak on this to a certain degree, because I am not going to speak as if I know the conversations that went on with any or all of the players that ended up transferring out this year from Indiana, because they could have been suggested out. I won't say moved along, but because unless you have a 2-year NIL deal, you're not locked in. And now there's good and bad to that. Players can say, "Hey, I've got a 2-year deal," or then they look at it like, "Oh man, I'm locked in on my second year." Welcome to life, man.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that's really aggravating the hell out of me. These guys they've been given all the freedom in the world, too much freedom, to be honest with you, but it's being abused, and it's also teaching the wrong lessons.
Well,
in my opinion. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I agree with you in what you said, like a lot of the wrong lessons are being taught here.
Somebody make sure we get that.
Clip that and put it in your intro. But the one thing that I always come back to is I always wonder, what's the difference if you're out there looking for money? What's the difference that you're looking for? Like, I'm going to use Brendan Sorsby as an example, right? If that kid made $1 million at Cincinnati and he makes $5 million at Texas Tech, you can certainly understand why he would choose to make that, to go that route, right? Like, that's a significant jump in money. But if you're talking about the difference between $200,000 and $300,000 or something along those lines, well, what are going to be your moving expenses if you have those? What's the tax situation? And 2 and 3, when you get your agent's going to take more of your money. So how much more money are you actually making? Like, I think these kids see an ultimate, like, overall dollar sign, but how much of that are you actually taking home, right? Like, a lot of these kids don't have that kind of financial understanding. When I had my first job at 22, 23, I didn't have that financial understanding. So I that's another thing that I'm always curious about. Like, if it's a significant jump in money, or, you know, going to a different program where you can compete for a national championship, like, that stuff to me is one thing. But if you're like, they don't really value me, this other school's going to give me an extra $100K, like, is it worth it? I feel like sometimes you get stuck in those situations where it sounds good on paper, but are you actually bringing that much more money in, or, you know, whatever the case is? I think there's a lot of things wrong with the transfer portal in the current situation, but the NCAA.
Well, you're alone in that, because nobody else thinks that. No, I'm kidding. I went on a rant yesterday, Coach, and Dustin Schutte from Boilers on SI with me, Coach Griff from the Hoosier Tailgate at the Hoosier.com. But I went on a rant yesterday, and it was crap. What did you just say? I already forgot. I'm doing too many things.
Money. Talking about money, transfer portal, and the NIL broken, can't fix it.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's got these. Here's what we need to do. Well, we know what needs to be done. How does it get done? I mean, between John Calipari and whoever else is coming up with all Tommy Tuberville, well, there should be a 5-year deal and you get one transfer, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? It used to be that way. But the schools that make up the NCAA, fought each other with your own state courts because you knew you had advantages there, and you broke it all up. So now you got to put the egg back to Humpty Dumpty. You got to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, and because that's where we are. You've got to get everybody to agree. So to me, it should be relatively easy. These are public institutions. The majority of these schools are public institutions, right, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Notre Dame and those guys aside, but these are public institutions. You just say, if you're a public institution, bam, this are some guardrails. And for those of you that are not public institution, Notre Dame, talking directly to you as well as others, you don't get around this. If you wish to participate in the college football playoffs, you also must abide and agree to the same set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me.
I get it. And ultimately, that's what, the NCAA for right now, they're going to have to fight some of these things. It's going to get ugly. And, but you're correct. At some point in time, you got to have the guardrails. Right now, we're just kind of feeling our way through the dark, and that's what's happening. We got kids that are signing contracts of 2 and 3 years, then wanting to break them and not have to reimburse the school for the money that they were given because they want the greener grass. That's the wrong thing to teach a kid, because that's not how the real world works. Right now, we're in fantasy world with this stuff. Whether it's football or basketball, it's fantasy world. It's like playing with Monopoly money. But these schools are not going to be able to last much longer when they're divvying up the money that they have to divvy up. And then all of a sudden they're going to have to spend more and more towards basketball and football and less on the other sports that they are giving money to, because the demand in those two sports outweighs the other one. And that's what we're getting into right now. So I agree. There's got to be a higher power that comes in and sets the guardrails and say A, B, C, and D. Who that is, your guess is good as mine.
I mean, the president,
but it's the NCAA right now.
2 executive orders. The second one was kind of a directive to try to head in that direction.
Yeah, with the federal government. Yeah,
I've already seen many things reported that, well, this is not likely to make it through the courts, but it won't probably as it is. But is it a starting point? They have. I talked about this, Dustin. 35% is the number that is reportedly what NIL, rev share, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's dumb to have 2 different words now. It's all the freaking same. They're putting it in one basket. And why don't they call it your golden parachute, your payment package? It is a payment. I talk about collective bargaining all of the time. Are they going to get to that point? Because unless they don't, I don't know how you're ever going to get to any place. But how on God's green earth? I talk about, the pro leagues have, 32 teams or whatever.
Yep.
But it's only 32. There are 300 D1 basketball programs, just D1.
Right.
Then you've got college football, the big boy football. So you've got to get all of that in agreement.
Yep.
And then you're going to have all those smaller ones going, hey, wait a minute, don't forget about us. Well, sorry, you're going to get forgotten about. And I'm going to sound harsh here. I don't care. When it comes to playoffs and things like that, I don't care. You're not going to win anyway. The CFP, I talked about this yesterday, and boy, I could talk about that all day. The growth of it. I think 24 teams is stupid.
Correct.
Okay, right now with 12, I'm not saying 12 is the number, but with 12, there are not 12 teams that can win the national championship.
Yeah.
Now,
just like there's not 64.
Because Miami and Notre Dame have shown us that, some teams that you don't expect can make it through. Yeah. But the James Madisons, the other teams like that, no, I'm sorry. It's just not. Why? This is not the NCAA men's basketball tournament. It just isn't. Those differences that can be made up on a basketball floor, they just can't on the football field, in my opinion.
Well, here's the other thing. The NCAA is about to have another issue on their hands, especially if they do approve this 5-for-5 rule, where it's 5 years to play, 5 years basically. Because you're gonna, if they approve that,
5 to play 4, that's probably
5 to play 5.
You get an additional 5 years.
So the problem is okay. So what are you going to do with the roster? Can the kids that just graduated, can they come back? Because if not, they're going to sue the NCAA to get a roster spot. So now you're going to have to make more roster spots, whether it's football, basketball, other sport. Like how does that work? I guarantee the reason they're kicking the can down the road is because they don't want to approve this until all those other players have quote unquote moved on, and you get into a new academic calendar year, so you can try to avoid some of that. The problem is those guys who just graduated, they're all going to sue. How far back are some of these lawsuits going to go where they say, hey, I only played 4 years and they didn't take a red shirt or they didn't have an injury? So to me, that's going to be a bigger nightmare. Like they just keep
That's
it's just a series of bad decisions.
That's where they need the legislative relief so that when they do make a rule like this, it's in effect from this point forward, and you have no recourse because you played in 2024 and you only got 4 years. You know, that there has to be that mentality brought into it, because like you said, otherwise any rule they make, it's always going to get challenged.
Right.
And there's going to be an injunction put in place that's going to allow a kid to play. Just like this year with Lewis Moore, he files a lawsuit, he gets injunction relief, and then when it's all done and done, when the season's over, they drop the suit, but the NCAA's holding the bag. And they want to know what was the answer. Why was this not upheld in court? And I don't think they ever got one because there was no case.
No, because they could have pushed the issue. That's what the chatter was about Indiana and their time.
Right.
Can Indiana lose? No, there's no freaking way. As a matter of fact, Louisville should get their damn 2013 banner back. That's stupid, in my opinion. But
but that's what I mean about the legislative.
Boilers on SI. He's got plenty there to check out. If you're a Boiler fan, the 7-footer, Sinan Hunan, Chase Richardson said an official visit. Plenty more. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You as well. Coach Griff.
Thank you.
You enjoyed watching the game tonight?
Yeah, I won't be able to make it down. I told you, with my mom's situation, feeling the illness, I guess you could say, I got to be around here. But watch it, and depending on how I feel in time, I may have a minimal recap on the tailgate just to say what I saw or didn't see. So we'll talk about it if we want to do something together, or you may be running around with your head cut off.
No idea what it's going to be like there tonight, but we'll get it figured out. Coach Griff from the Hoosier.com and the Hoosier Tailgate. Appreciate you, my friend.
You too, buddy. See you.
We've got more coming up. The man, the myth, the legend, Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun, formerly the IUB, joins us next, right after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games every Sunday through Thursday, a new menu to dig into, and next-level upgrades like private game suites, the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington, 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Feed Radio on this Thursday. Glad to be here and glad to be along with my good friend Kevin Brockway, K-Bro from the Gainesville Sun. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. Hey, NFL draft tonight. Are you fired up, or what are you thinking?
I mean, not fired up. No, I just covering it. Indiana has their spring game tonight too at 8:00.
Yeah, so you'll be doing a little double duty there.
Yeah, I think that. Well, pretty positive they're going to have all of that being busted up on the big screen. It's a huge recruiting weekend, K-Bro, for Indiana. We were talking about this earlier. They've got the number one ranked player in the 2027 class who is committed or has been committed to Texas Tech, Jaden Brewster, in for a visit this weekend, and they're pretty deep on Munch and Sales right now, a 5-star wideout.
So why Thursday night? Is the game going to be televised, or what's the
reason? But the reason is because tomorrow is it's the Little 500 weekend.
Okay.
So they're bringing these guys in on the biggest college weekend. It's the world's greatest college weekend, is how it's billed. But yeah, you've got all of this stuff going on. The weather tonight is going to be spectacular. Maybe raining tomorrow, but Saturday is going to be nice again. Just a beautiful weekend on a beautiful campus. I know that I talked about this earlier. Brewster's currently committed to Texas Tech. I'm like, well, that can't look too good out there in West Texas with a bunch of
Have you ever been to Lubbock?
I have not.
I'm surprised a rodeo guy like you. I went there once.
Been to El Paso
a long time ago. I covered when I was in college. Miami played Texas Tech, and I was the sports writer student paper, and they let me on the plane. We flew out there, and that was a lot of fun. That was a fun road trip. I remember, this is back when Dan Lebitard got his start on the Miami Herald beat, and I remember going out. Drinking with him and a bunch of fraternity parties and almost passing out in some of the rolling hills out there. But that was those were my college days, long time ago.
Fun stuff. Always fun stuff. I only went to the Little 500 once. That was all I needed. I was more concerned with participating in the extracurricular activities that went on around it. But hey, before we get to anything else, let's talk a little baseball. Man, you've got to be miserable right now. But the Mets win. The Mets win. Juan Soto comes back, waves his magic wand, and brings a win. Were they at Shea Stadium? Which it's not even Shea Stadium anymore. But
City Field, beautiful city. Well, Francisco Lindor got
Shea Stadium.
Francisco Lindor got hurt during the game, so even when they win, they lose. So that's just the way it's kind of been for them. So they bring back Soto, and that looks like Lindor is about to go on the IL with a calf issue. So it's just it's one thing after another with this group. But I think poorly constructed roster by David Stearns. So it's going to be I keep on telling myself I'm going to get out of it and focus my energies on another hobby, and then I get sucked back in. But it's
every time I'm out, they pull me back in.
Exactly, and maybe they'll go on a win streak, and then you get back excited and stuff. But it's that's the thing about Major League Baseball. It's such a long grind, but
it's very early.
Yeah, and it's very early. And I know your Cincinnati Reds are doing okay, right?
They're leading their division, but actually they're like a half game off of having the best record in baseball. They lost last night, 16-9 now, but that's a half game off of the Dodgers and the Padres. But they lead their division, K-Bro, with a negative run differential. Yes, you gotta love that. But hey, it'll be fun to talk about over the summer. Watch L.A. De La Cruz keep doing. He's playing really well. So plenty of fun stuff. But we've got a ton of stuff that. Speaking of which, Billy Donovan. It's so funny because every time there's a college opening, it would be Brad Stevens and Billy Donovan's name. Oh, they're like, Billy Donovan's wife was in town looking at houses and yada, yada, yada. Well, this time it could actually be true. And I talked about this yesterday in the town of Lexington, Kentucky. they would love nothing more than to bring fans would kill to bring Billy Donovan in right now and send the Pope to the Vatican.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think, with Billy, certainly he's been through a lot this year. His father passed. I went to the wake. His mother had her leg amputated recently. After that, shortly after that, had a blood condition. His I think mother-in-law or father-in-law passed also. So there's been like a lot that's gone on, and it looked like he was going to win that front office struggle apparently, but then he decided to bow out because basically I think he realized that if a new general management group came in, even one that he might sign off for, he would still have that kind of lame duck feeling going into the season with a group that he wasn't familiar with. So I do think that it's going to be. I think he wants to stay in the NBA. I still believe that, and the Orlando Magic. That's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Or even Shams Charania mentioned the New York Knicks too, who tried to interview him as well. But I wouldn't necessarily say that he's definitely going back to college. Now, if a year passes and Kentucky opens up and some other jobs open up, maybe. I mean, that's a distinct possibility. But I think right now his first option is to stay in the NBA. I think he likes that, lifestyle, and I think he likes coaching at that level. And I don't know how he would, adapt to this new landscape. I really don't.
Well, that's a thought, but my only thought along with that is it's not as far away from the NBA as what it used to be, because
True.
now most teams are adding a GM to handle a big chunk of the roster management piece. And you're able to add another assistant coach now. The money is way better than it was when he was in college. I can't imagine what he made 20 years, 90 in the late 90s, however long that's been, was 25 years, however, my math isn't great, but what was he making? 3-4 million a year, maybe?
Well, in 2015, that was his last year. And I believe he was making around 4 million a year. And now, and when he went to the Thunder, he made 5 million a year, and then with the Bulls, he's making 6. So, yeah, before he resigned, he was making 6 a year. So I think he was in a good spot.
He would pay him more than that.
It could, it just depends on.
It would.
Well, Bill Self is the highest paid coach in college basketball, and he's getting $8.5 million. So it's not that much more than 6. So you would be surprised.
He was getting 9.
No, he's getting 7.1. Yeah. So, Coach, he might have been getting 9 at Kentucky. I think Coach K was getting around 9, but since Coach K retired and Cal left Kentucky, I think, according to our salary database, USA Today has one. Self is the highest paid at about 8.3.
Yeah, you're right. 9.63. Calipari next at 8.5. Tom Izzo next, a big drop to 6. Then, well, they've got Bruce Pearl, so this is still owed. But Rick Barnes,
yeah, Todd Golden, he's at $6 million a year, and he's the 6th highest paid coach. Now, of course, there's some rumblings with Todd that he's going to get another bump. Because obviously, you talk about an NBA job that, if the Golden State Warriors open up, he has ties in San Francisco. Apparently, he knows ownership there. So that's at least going to make Florida sweat a little bit. But I think with the return of Thomas Houck and Alex Condon, Todd's going to really want to coach this group.
And North Carolina just made their coach, I think, the 3rd highest paid coach in college basketball.
Yeah, so the money is out there.
Kentucky would make him, I guarantee you, Kentucky would make him the highest paid coach in college basketball.
Yeah, and let's see how this all transpires too with Pope. But certainly it doesn't look promising for him making a move up the SEC standings, considering what Florida has done. in retaining a lot of their key stars. But yeah, Mark Pope is going to be on a pretty short leash there, so it'll be interesting to see. Again, I still think with Billy Donovan, I still think he wants to stay in the NBA. I had conversations with people close to him over the last couple of years, and I know that he wants to see the NBA level through as long as possible, because I still think he thinks it's more basketball than not. I think nowadays, it's interesting with NIL. You still probably have to schmooze with the boosters a little bit and do some things to fundraise here and there, and that was never his bag.
Okay, bro. Are you a subscriber to Sports Illustrated, the magazine?
Yes.
Swimsuit edition's coming out.
Are you excited or no? Or they're not going to have Martha Stewart on it again?
I'm not a subscriber, but I just happened to notice that the 2026 swimsuit issue is set to feature Sophie Cunningham of the Indiana Fever.
I saw the pictures. Yes, I did notice that. And she's a striking woman, tall. And it's interesting now with the WNBA, an avenue to market, right? Certainly, for sure. But
how about the contracts they just signed?
No, well, I mean,
Cunningham, for example, is, I think, the 5th highest paid player on the Fever, and she signed a $665,000 one-year contract.
Well, I think what happened was the collective bargaining, certainly, and they were able to, come up with a better deal revenue sharing wise, and it's resulted in better salaries. And look, what happened, and they should all be thanking Caitlin Clark, because certainly
I talked about this yesterday.
That's what I mean. This is a direct result of, just like golf with Tiger Woods. You have a transcendent star, it has an effect, right? In terms of revenue, in terms of marketing,
travel. It started with travel,
and now it, like you said, now players are reaping the rewards. That the ratings are better, the sports become more popular, women's basketball. So you're now seeing storylines with regards to Caitlin Clark and the rivalry surrounding Caitlin Clark, right? Sophie Cunningham becomes a celebrity because she protected Caitlin Clark, right? And then they see this tall, striking blonde woman, and you realize that you can market some things around her. So there's a lot to it. And certainly over the last, 20 or 30 years, the WNBA has continued to build and grow. And, it's good to see. It's good to see for that the NBA stuck with it. And now that, you're starting to see it, emerge as a legitimate league. And I think that, ESPN, right, is making a commitment on Sunday nights to it as well. So we'll see how it continues.
Absolutely. What's coming up next for you, brother?
Well, a lot of stuff on the, basketball and football front, off-season news. I'll be going to SEC spring meetings in Dustin in late May, which should be interesting.
You know what?
So a lot of
should never, ever have media days in Chicago. I don't care if that's where the Big Ten is housed. Other companies do it. Let's take this thing on the road to Florida. Why is it not? Why can it not be in a warm weather state? California, far away.
The Big Ten's, don't they have like a version of their spring meetings? It's in Phoenix or something like that, I thought.
Oh, you're talking about the spring meetings. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Media Day.
No, spring meetings, yeah. Which is in
Media Day is in Chicago this year, I think.
Yeah, well, Chicago's one of those cities. You'll be going up, you'll be going to Buddy Guy's, right?
They should always be in Indianapolis.
Yeah, your deep dish
was incredible. Hated that you weren't there.
Yeah, deep dish pizza right at Luminalti's. You can do that, and you can
no deep dish, dude. I am not. If I want to eat deep dish pizza, I'll just take a loaf of bread and roll it up and pour some tomato sauce on it and throw a pepperoni on top of it. I'm a thin crust man. Thin crust, baby. I want to taste the stuff. I want my pepperoni and sausage, mushroom, onions, banana peppers. That's it. Now, and then you put the cheese on last. Cover all the goodness.
What are some of the things you're going to be looking for the spring game tonight?
Well, Josh Hoover, first of all, it's going to be the first look at him in this offense, but also first look at him with guys like, daggone it, Nick Marsh from Michigan State, but also with a few of the other guys. Charlie Becker, not in action. He's going to be out until the fall, I think, with a hamstring. And so they've got a few other pieces, but you're not going to see a lot in spring game anyway. They're not going to show a lot. So, just it's part of the atmosphere and just getting to see the guys and talk to whoever we get to talk to. So I'm interested to see about the crowd, how much of the crowd comes out for this.
Yeah. How about our guy, Omar Cooper, huh? He's going to go in the first round tonight, right? Lawrence?
Yeah. Where do you think? I saw projection 13 to the Rams, but I think he can go anywhere from 13 to 19, probably.
I saw a projection for the Jets at 16. I wouldn't mind him, former I'm trying to remember. Did he go to Lawrence North or Lawrence Central?
Lawrence North.
He went to Lawrence North, yeah, because I covered that basketball game that he was at.
Me and you, I think. CJ
that's kind of like cool to see. And I remember he played basketball like a football player, which I appreciated. He was a very physical guy at the court.
But it's
a heck of an athlete, obviously, because he was a damn good basketball player.
Well, not only that, Lawrence North, they have Davion Chandler, a receiver for Indiana from there. And now Manchin Sales, the 5-star recruit that Indiana's battling Alabama and now Texas for, that's from Lawrence North also. So
there you go. So you're creating a little pipeline there. And this is what it's interesting because this is what it does when you get it going, like what Cignetti has going right now in Indiana and, what Todd Golden has going right now at Florida. You get the NIL support, you get the name recognition for recruits. People take you seriously, and that's a credit to Cignetti and what he's built. And God, so much of it comes down to the coach, right? You just got to get the right guy.
Absolutely, and we always do with K-Bro. Appreciate you, my friend.
All right, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you.
I appreciate you, buddy. Go out and have yourself a great weekend. We've got more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. The great Matt Taylor from the Colts. We'll talk some NFL draft. Going on tonight. Back with all that and more right after these messages.
Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games Sunday through Thursday, plus a new menu and next-level upgrades like private game suites and the high-flying human crane. Only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington on South College Mall Road.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
You're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area? You need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Bored, Bloomington? Dave & Buster's can fix that. Eat and drink your way through our new menu. Play half-price games every Sunday through Thursday. Watch your teams on the big screen and level it all up with the high-flying human crane. Private game suites and more, only at 731 South College Ball Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Appreciate you being with us. I'm Coyle and joined by the great Matt Taylor, the voice of the Indianapolis Colts. And that will be a name that you hear at some point tonight as the NFL Draft from Pittsburgh goes off at 8. And we've talked a lot, Matt, about Fernando Mendoza, the expected number 1 pick in that, but also Omar Cooper is his projections have just kind of risen anywhere from 13 to whatever, because changes, trades, who takes who beforehand, things change. But it looks like they're going to get 2 guys taken, which is pretty much assuredly a first.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I've seen Omar Cooper and some of the, the mock drafts are obviously flooding in fast and furious, but I think the consensus on him is that he's probably like in the mid 20s, maybe the second or third wide receiver off the board. I mean, it's just it's unbelievable to think. I mean, I know you guys live this every day, trying to put the last 2 years of IU football in perspective, but IU is on a track record here, or a pace here, to have their first round selection in the NFL draft since 1994. And if Fernando Mendoza goes first overall, he'll be the first overall pick out of IU since 1938, I read. And so I don't think it's really all that crazy to think that they're going to break the program record for guys drafted in one single draft. I think that program record is 7. I think you could see at least 8 or 9 guys go. Again, watching every IU football game, ever, since I've been an adult, and certainly every game last year when they were 16-0 and, won the national championship. Looking at I was just on it this morning. I was looking at CBS, their final draft prospect rankings, and I was looking at linebacker because the Colts, need linebacker help, both depth and also starting caliber positional need there. But I mean, Aiden Fisher, they had him ranked like the 30 or the 28th best linebacker. I mean, name me 25 linebackers better than Aiden Fisher right now. I mean, that's just silly, but that's just what we do. And that's this time of year, it really doesn't matter. It's just all, beauty in the eye of the beholder when it comes to the teams, rating these prospects and how they would fit schematically in it. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a banner weekend for IU football, and something that they can continue to market and just put another feather in their cap when it comes to not only does Cignetti win, but he gets guys drafted and they fulfill their professional dreams.
Yeah, you're right. There have been a total of 11 first-round picks in the history of Indiana football. Only one overall number 1, and
yeah.
I don't know. Did you call any of his games? Corbin Davis, who played for the Cleveland Rams in 1938.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure his poster's hanging up at Nick's, isn't it?
Yeah. The alley bar.
That's right. No, but we're talking about glorious things here in modern day of football.
Yeah, I didn't realize they had a number 1 pick before, even though that's what the hell league was that?
Right, exactly. I mean, that's back in the Canton Bulldog days, and the Chicago Steamers and all that stuff, right? That's leather helmet days.
I'm assuming. Well, yeah, there was a team, the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah, yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that was back when baseball was king and professional football was not even really a thing. I mean, college football was way more popular than professional football, obviously, at the time. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is uncharted waters and unprecedented times for IU football tonight.
Well, and not only these first round picks that we're talking about, Matt, but this is going to be a
cavalcade of Indiana players. You just talked about Aiden Fisher, but there's several, Elijah Surratt, the different guys that have done well at we didn't mention D'Angelo Pons, a likely second round pick. Let's see, Riley Nowakowski. Somebody ran I can't remember who ran the 4.440. Someone lit it up. It may have been Riley, but they have several. They're going to have more guys drafted over the next few days, I think, that are in the NFL currently total. Then you have the drafted free agents.
Right. Yeah. And how many of those guys, are on the peripheral of not being drafted? Like, I just go back to Aiden Fisher. I mean, name me 25 linebackers better than him in terms of the, production, experience, savviness, all the intangibles from a leadership standpoint. I mean, you guys know the drill better than I do down there. I mean, 2 weeks ago, the Colts had their local pro day, and it might as well just been an extension of the IU pro day, because it was, I think, 15 or 16 IU guys there out of 40. It was just remarkable, and most of them worked out, and most of them did all the drills and showed out. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but just having been exposed to it for the first time, having a chance to meet a lot of those guys for the first time and hear them speak in person. I mean, I think that stuff's just as important as leadership and production on the field. It's just how you carry yourself and answering questions with professionalism, because I just think it's all one big puzzle piece, or pieces of the puzzle, if you will, because you got to have guys that just flat out get it, and they answer the questions really eloquently, a lot of professionalism, and you can just see they're just products of their environment, which is obviously spearheaded by Curt Cignetti, because he sets the standards, holds the guys to those standards, and then they're just 2 years in already just walking embodiments of the culture and the accountability that's been set forth within that program.
Yeah, and it continues to grow, which recruiting is nothing that you would have any reason to follow. But the recruiting obviously is taking shape the way it should when you're coming off of these back-to-back seasons, much less than undefeated national championship. They're very, very high for a local prospect in Monchin Sales from Lawrence North, a 5-star wide receiver. And how about Lawrence North pumping these wideouts out? Omar Cooper, Davion Chandler, now and Monchin Sales.
Don't forget about, was it Devin McCauley too, right?
Yes, Donovan McCulley.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he changed to
receiver.
From quarterback to receiver, and then transferred. I forgot that he left. But yeah, how about that? Coach Taylor, they're doing a great job there at Lawrence North. But it's going to be a fun night for Indiana. They've got the spring game, Matt. You're going to have the draft going on on the big board at the same time. So to have those two guys, if they can get that second one in time, that's going to be the trick.
And also, too, I mean, I don't know if this is all just a coincidence. My guess is no, because I think Curt Cignetti is obviously very thoughtful and very intentional, and I think everybody within the athletic department down there is pretty savvy and intentional too. But I mean, what a genius idea to have the spring game, the culmination of your offseason workout program, if you will, the same night as the NFL draft, and the weather is going to be beautiful tonight. So I'm assuming they're going to get a pretty decent crowd, just because it's something fun to do within town.
Little 5 weekend.
Also, Little 5 weekend. So go support the national champs. But then, for those guys, I mean, I can tell you firsthand, those guys that are working out tonight and that are participating in the spring game, I mean, to have that on the Jumbotron as a little bit of a dangling carrot, if you will, that is huge motivation for those guys to continue to buy in and bust their tail and do everything that is asked of them and continue to develop and just be great stewards of the program, but also stewards for themselves to get to where they want to go and be just like Fernando Mendoza and Omar Cooper and other guys that get to see their names flashed up on the screen on draft weekend.
And there's other guys from the state of Indiana that are on other teams, whether it's Ohio State or Alabama, who knows where all they are, because there's talent that comes out of this state. Trust me. We'll see those guys getting picked up as well. What about the Colts? What are they looking at? They don't have a top pick. They've kind of made some trades and put themselves in the position where they want to be, with Daniels coming back next year, and Daniel Jones rather coming back next year, and you've got the DB they signed for. What are they going to need to do?
Yeah, this is a tricky situation tonight. Obviously, going into the first round without that first round pick, they gave up their 2026 and 2027 first round selection to the Jets at the trade deadline last fall in November to pick up Sauce Gardner. Now, the immediate dividends of that trade didn't pay off for the Colts, kind of twofold. And from a team standpoint, they lost their last 7 games, and I think a part of that is because they didn't have Sauce Gardner for a majority of those games. He only played in to completion anyways, 2 full games with the Colts down the stretch, had a nagging calf injury. And so obviously, the immediate dividends weren't there last year for that trade. But this is just me talking, all right, on the record. I'm not speaking on behalf of the team, but I mean, Sauce Gardner is better than any prospect the Colts can pick up tonight. And he's going to be better than any prospect they can draft next year too, right? He's a proven player that plays a premium position. I say that all the time because it's so true in the NFL. I've been in this business now for 15 years, and what wins in this league, because every game comes down to the fourth quarter and the final 4 minutes, all of these games are decided by one score. You got to have premium players that play those top spots, and those are quarterback, tackle, wide receiver, defensive end, and corner. Those are the guys that put the ball in the end zone and take it away, right? So you got to have playmakers at those spots. So I know there's a section of Colts fans that are upset because they're not going to be involved in the drama and the pomp and the circumstance tonight because of the first round, the absence there. But you wake up tomorrow on Friday, Sauce Gardner's on your team. So you got better. You just did. Now, in saying that, they've got holes in terms of depth they got to fill. And because free agency went the way that it did, they are putting a lot of eggs in this basket in terms of nailing the draft. So there's a lot of pressure to get guys that will either start or play significant roles next season. And those positions would be defensive end, linebacker, maybe wide receiver because Michael Pittman Jr. was traded in the offseason, maybe safety because Nick Cross is no longer here. But the biggest ones are just within that front 7. Defensive end, getting after the quarterback. Latu is kind of the spear of that sword now, if you will. DeForest Buckner still coming off a neck injury. He was their best pass rusher last year, and that's not a good thing because of the position that he plays. He's a defensive tackle, not a defensive end. They need depth at linebacker. They also need 2 new starters there. So it's going to be a very significant draft in the sense that the Colts got to nail it. They got to get guys that can come in right away and contribute as rookies for the viability and the success of this team next year, especially on defense.
Certainly looking forward to it, buddy. Appreciate you. Matt Taylor, Indianapolis Colts. Look forward to talking to you soon, buddy.
All right. Talk to you next week. Be good.
Yes, sir. Appreciate Matt Taylor, Coach Dustin, Schutte, and K-Bro. Most importantly, each and every one of you. We're back tomorrow to wrap up the week. We'll talk about tonight's spring game and more. Until then, make sure you keep it locked right here. Stay tuned for Glass in the afternoon on 98.7 WWZ in the Zone, Bloomington's only sports station.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.